Hey everybody, this is Z and welcome to my Uncertain Music live stream. This is the first of its kind, and I think we're going to even call it, or at least have an episode series called Sound Advice. Does that sound right? Yeah, okay. This is a music channel. I'm a musician. I've graduated from the Grove School of Music, toured with a lot of bands, recorded a lot of music and stuff. So it's me niching out here using that YouTube platform and for niching. Yeah, yeah, but can't beat enjoying them. So I'd much rather just have one channel and everybody just loves all the things that I do, but that's silly. That's silly. Yeah. And I'm a little too old to be developing a celebrity channel. So, but this is all about the music, and I really decided to, well, the push for about a year now has been to really focus more on this channel. Believe it or not, the problem is content. Having content, choosing content, creating content to put on the channel. You can get my music on Bandcamp and other outlets, um, but I don't want to just be giving away music, free music. There is music that I give away. It's hard. It's hard to figure out what music you should create that you'll be giving away and what music that you feel worthy of selling, right? And what's going on is as a when you're just dabbling in music, then you don't feel too bad about giving music away. But as you transition into taking what you're doing in music more serious, then you are focusing on music and you're getting better. And so all I'm saying is most of what you're doing is starting to get good enough to offer for sale. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to stop putting music up online. To the contrary, that's what this is all about. Um, what I'm thinking here is we uh, get some get our instruments and hang out, maybe do some one on ones. Maybe I get my co host from my other streams to join me. He's also a musician. And we can just, you don't need any fancy gear. You can just play, have your instrument play, and we can talk music story. And then if you are fortunate enough to have the interface and the interface gods are working with you, well, that's all the more better. The nice thing is we can at least try and we can tell each other if the interface is working properly because it's hard to do otherwise for live streams. In other words, doing a live stream in a vacuum, you have no idea how well that stream is doing technically until the following day when you can watch it. So, the episode series, sound advice. I like that. It's not like us really giving sound advice, but offering sound advice, even asking for sound advice. And I like the series. The series, um, what do you call it? The pilot, the series intro. That's what this is. The series intro. Uh, the thing that I wanted to start with, the discussion that I wanted to start with, is regarding pedals. Now, if you're a guitarist, for sure, bass player maybe, or other style musician, you may or may not use pedals, effect pedals, sound pedals. But let's just kind of keep the conversation to those of us that do, mostly guitar players. Um, I'm in this process of regaining all the pedals that I once had, or replacing the pedals that I currently have, in order to complete the task at hand. And so I have been, I've been, I've been going deep with some effects. This is the RC1, the loop station. I got the DS1, the distortion, the fuzz, Wazacraft fuzz, always nice. Got an MXR, a delay, and a TC Electronics, that Hall of Fame reverb, right? Oh, and I just picked up the Boss EQ7 band EQ, which really has always been stomp pedal EQ has always been a must have in my sound arsenal. Um, and it's amazing that I don't have one, and I just recently got one, and boy, is it a delight. Yeah, all right. Oh, a little backstory. I graduated from a couple music colleges, Grove School, uh, community college, classical school. I've toured and played, recorded with many bands, um, some celebrities, good handful of celebrities. And let's see, I have been for the past 5, going on 6 years, been living in this vehicle and traveling around and making music, not publicly. I have had an issue that I'm dealing with for a long time, and I'm starting to come out of that issue, and that is carpal tunnel. I've had really bad carpal tunnel, still have it, and was felt defeated for some time by it, and pretty much gave up on doing music professionally. And I dabbled for many years after, and it's only been the past year, I would say, where I've kind of worked up the I don't want to say courage, uh, but just worked up to being able to consider playing professionally again. Not playing professionally again, but consider playing professionally. So it's been a long road, and my whole life I've been a musician. So not being a musician uh, has been devastating in so many ways, financially, career wise, spiritually wise. So coming back into music has been a huge challenge, especially living in a vehicle. You have to really decide what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Um, Having a studio full of instruments, which I've had the pleasure of multiple times in my career. Yeah, well, the good thing is we have things like GarageBand and iPads and stuff like that, where we can simply make music and produce music that way. However, you can't get around actually being a musician and playing your instrument. If you want to play live in front of people, it's not going to be very interesting for them to see you play the interface of your iPad. Oh boy, the dust is coming. And I'm really grateful for virtual instruments and stuff, because it really is what sort of helped to keep me going musically on one level or another. And and in fact, It's a great tool. If anything, it's a great tool, for songwriting, and for practicing and whatnot, but it's not a great tool for performing. I've been trying to use computers and phones and stuff like that for many years. Uh, yeah, since the 80s, actually. Remember the sync tone from a cassette? You would like try to use a cassette as backing tracks with one as a sync tone. Remember that? Yeah, back in the 80s, 86, I believe that was. So I've been trying to use that sort of stuff in performing for a long time. And I've just never really had a lot of luck with it. I think the best luck I've had with it was when I was touring with a band called Tinkle Potty, where it was me and another guy, um, and playing to backing tracks essentially. And as a drummer, it really sucks playing the backing tracks. Uh, but it was well received performance wise. But and therein lies the issue. I mean, as a performer, you want both sides to be happy. You want to be happy as a performer, and you want your audience to be happy with your performance. And that's not an easy thing to achieve. So, one of the things that I had to start reacquiring were effects, and begrudgingly so, because you can get effects for free now if you use your phone, or you can get effects really cheap now if you get a multi box, but then you don't have easy access, immediate access to the parameters of those effects. So, if you're serious about playing and performing, and you've chosen the electric guitar as the device, which is the most efficient device, other than maybe a keyboard if you're a keyboard player, but it's the most efficient device for playing music to other people. It's also most recognizable. So is a keyboard, right? So those are things that you can instruments that you can use to perform in front of people. You can do drums, but drums can be very disruptive. Drums can be, you know, I love drums, and if all it took to make money was to just play drums, that would be great. But honestly, I like to do more than play drums. So what I finally decided on was for performing live, just a hand drum and a guitar. So that's what I've been able to really commit to for performing live. And of course, for recording and what else? Uh, the sky's the limit. However, if you're gonna record and you're gonna then sell that, and then you get a tour to do that music, now you got a problem, right? So, now the argument with guitar pedals, and I'll be the first to make that argument, is that, guitar pedals are great for people that don't know how to play their guitars, or they're not very good. Or you got a cheap guitar. There's an argument. There's a and they're kinda it could be true. It's certainly true. I'll be honest, if I felt good enough and confident enough as an acoustic guitar player to stand in front of people just naked with a guitar an acoustic guitar, that'd be great. But again, you also gotta remember that balance of, am I gonna be happy just playing acoustic guitar? I really like sounds, electronic sounds, and stuff like that. So, yeah, the electric guitar wound up winning, and it was quite a struggle figuring out which instrument I was gonna choose to commit to, um, for live performance. So there we are, and Although drums is my are is my are my drums are my strongest instrument. I wouldn't want to just hear drums or just play drums. So I now playing guitar. Guitar is not my strongest asset. My next strongest instrument asset is bass, and then maybe guitar, piano. Probably guitar and piano are about even with each other. So I've never really, 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 really made the commitment. Just once, I'd say I made an attempt to be a really good guitar player and singer. But I've not really made the same commitment or progress in the other instruments than I have in drums. And so I decided to do that, that to really focus again, not ignore the other instruments, but really focus on guitar, specifically electric guitar. So then you get down to, well, multi effect pedal, which would be great for playing live, especially busking and stuff, or a bunch of chained multi stomp pedals, effect pedals. Oh boy, I know. And right now, for less than $100, you can get so many multi effect pedals are available for less than $100. It's crazy. Some for less than $50. So, so you really want those. Of course, I don't want to spend money on gear, but I got rid of so much of my gear that as a guitar player, I have to start reacquiring those tools. Sure, it would be great to have a multi effect unit in with the chain or to use in an emergency or in really, if you really want access to your tone, if you want access to the effect, if you need to be able, if one effect goes out, just take it out of the chain. There's a professional consideration. If your multi effect unit goes out, that's it. So, so multi guitar, electric guitar, and multi effects, it was. Yes. Now, looping, there's a whole issue there, the whole thing with looping. And I'm coming to understand that as long as you are judicious in the use of the looping, so if you're using the looping for more not repetitive, necessarily repetitive lines or even repetitive chords, but rather use it for rhythmic. You be more rhythmic in your use of loops because we don't mind hearing a rhythm over and over. In fact, we insist upon it, but we want melody, harmony to change. I personally even like rhythms to change, but it's okay. We can fly with jamming along 10 minutes with the same rhythm, but not the same chords or melody. That has to change. So that's the approach with using the looper. And I even feel that as I get better, I'll say it out loud, as I get better and regain my skills as a player, I'll even be able to use this less. But I think this looper is a great thing for practicing. It's a great thing for coming up with ideas. Um, but for using live, I think it's great for using live if you're using it more as a rhythmic element or even as a background sort of sound soundscape sort of thing. Having playing that's my one of my favorite things to do with a looper is to create a really nice soundscape, kind of put that in the background and then play over top. Um, so Then comes, well, now you've got a whole bunch with Amazon, you can buy pedals for like 15, 20 bucks. Any pedal you want, any sound you want. Except, is that company gonna be around? Is the sound quality, really the craftsmanship and quality, um, gonna last? Uh, sure, it might sound just as good, but that doesn't mean anything if the thing doesn't last. So again, as a professional, I've heard advice to the contrary of, go with the cheapest. But if you're a musician, it's a little different because you're really also focused on the quality of music, the quality of the sound. I mean, that's your job, right? So, uh, a good example is Behringer. Behringer is a great knockoff brand, does a great knockoff of a lot of the Boss pedals, and they're all about 25 bucks or cheaper. But they're and a lot of them, the sound is good. In some cases, maybe even preferred. However, they're all in plastic enclosures, and it's not just the fact that they're in plastic enclosures, but the plastic enclosures do not dissipate heat. We're dealing with electronics here. So when a product creates heat and it doesn't dissipate it, then you will get moisture. That can be an issue. Now, Behringer, with being the cheapest and probably, I think there's millions of guitarists out there creating guitar pedal boards on the cheap and loving life using Behringer. And hey, and more power to them, especially if they're not professional. If they're not professional musicians, yeah, why would you want to spend that kind of money? However, um, the takeaway is Behringer is hugely popular. And who are they knocking off? They're knocking off these guys. Did I say Boss or Saab? No, there it is. Yeah, they're knocking off these guys. So that tips your hand as a pro, uh, as to who and whose products, whose tools you might want to check out. Now, I'm a big Boss fanboy because Boss is actually Roland, and Roland is my favorite electronics company. I've bought many Roland products, sound products. I think they're Magic Sound. I think they had like a Magic, Natural Magic or Magic, some really good stuff. Um, Roland, huge Roland A2 keyboard. I think that was Roland, and yeah, the S SPDX drum pads. Awesome, awesome pads that I use, that I wanted to use for performance, but I'm realizing the huge limitation. Uh, the the Roland SPDSX is great if you're touring with a band and playing, you got PA and all that. That's great. But if you're thinking, well, I'll use this for busking, yeah, you don't want to carry an SPDSX, and the sound quality is not going to be good enough unless you carry a PA with the thing. So, no, no. But it is good for anything and everything else. So that's the Roland SPDSX. Um, I didn't get the Pro, not because it's a little bit more expensive, but well, it's considerably more expensive. But the Pro actually has limitations. It has things you can do with it, but it also has some severe limitations that they need to deal with. Uh, or fix in the next model, perhaps. But I'm sure the Pro is great, and if you own the Pro, I'm sure you're having a lot of fun with it and dealing with those limitations. Roland is quirky and Boss is quirky. I don't know if Boss is so is as quirky, but Roland is quirky in general, just in their like why can't you do certain things with this product, right? Like they'll offer you two effects, but only one for X amount reasons and another for another reason. But that's only us in the future thinking about this and saying, how come you did that? Right. Back then, it was cutting edge. They were figuring out how to offer more. And yeah. So, anyway, Boss knows what they're doing. They've been around forever. I've been using Boss products for, oh geez, not since the 70s, 80s at least, that maybe even the 70s, but certainly by the 80s. Um, Although honestly, I can't recall what product it was. Might have even been a Boss drum machine or something. Uh, but Roland and Boss products I've been familiar with and have liked that sound. And we all have heard Boss and Roland products by musicians around the world for years and years. Uh, so it boils down to you got, at least for me, approaching this on a professional level as being someone that's going to um, be performing professionally live. You can't do without pedals. I can't do without pedals. Um, there's also an artistic element with the pedals, which is uh, you got to keep the muse going. And one of the things that helps the muse going is new sounds. So when you have a lot of easy knobs that you can access, especially right while you're performing, then you're able to create new sounds. Even with just a few effect pedals, you can really go to town on creating new sounds with the knobs. Let's say you got 3 effect pedals. That's a that's like 9 knobs that you can turn, and also knobs on your guitar and also knobs on your amp. That's a lot of knobs that you can play with to create different sounds. So, if you're a really great guitar player, then you're probably going in another direction and don't need to be so sonically infatuated. But uh, for more than one reason, maybe it's not necessarily talent, but as you're getting older, you're getting less of, for me, it's carpal tunnel. Being able to play and work around carpal tunnel really requires for me to be inspired by the sound, the new sound, and to be motivated by just the sound alone, not necessarily what intricate thing I do with that sound. You get me, you feel me. It doesn't. So so that's been the approach. I'm not going to let this carpal tunnel ruin the fact that I love and still want to play and make music with a guitar. I'm not going to let that stop me. And I'm going to use the tools available. And I'm kind of digging myself in a hole right now, getting the necessary tools. But if you are a carpenter and you need to go into the hole in order to get a hammer and all the necessary tools that's required to be a carpenter, then that's what you gotta do. And so that's been the commitment, is to get the tools and then work with them. Yes. I feel like we should go. I know. Isn't this something? This is a music stream, and not what neither of us have an instrument in our hands. However, I have a Boss box in my hand, so that counts.
That
I'm I'm
counts.
I'm making that count. So the conversation, I don't know if you were able to hear any of it before logging in, but the
No, I haven't.
conversation, I've been taking everybody through my journey uh, of deciding to be a professional musician again, right? Not just dabbling, but to actually just, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And what the reason why I was not, because my carpal tunnel, and kind of got devastated by that for a while. And then only this past year have I've been kind of been able to approach, like, what instrument and what, how what am I going to do, under, especially under these circumstances of being a nomad. How am I? Before, I didn't have the limitations. It's like, oh, okay, I want to play sitar, let's play sitar, let's play tabla, all right, yeah, and it's great because you have all that stuff on the iPhone, but that doesn't translate to being a live performer of that instrument, right? So,
Yeah.
so it was really a challenge. And what's kind of interesting about this conversation and you coming in on it is that you came to visit me while I was in the throes of trying to figure out,
Yeah.
okay, should live drums? Okay. Okay, definitely the SPDSX. No, no, no. Okay, acoustic guitar. No, no, no. Electric guitar. No,
Yeah.
no, no, definitely not electric guitar. Of all things, okay, bass, bass. Yeah, bass. Ah, shit. My bass is all. Uh-oh, you froze up on me.
Drums.
There we go. There you go. So,
Oh, you kind of glitched out a little bit. Yeah. So my live or my bars, I have like between 1 and 3 bars, but mostly two.
oh
Um,
dang.
where I'm at, I discovered a new little spot over here. So if this stream goes well, then it could be a nice little area of stay. Um,
Especially if you can get the 3 bars more than the 1 bar.
yeah, yeah, and
So
it
1 and
it looks
2.
like it's more like a solid 2 to 3, and then every now and then
Cool.
it's like 1 bar for a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
I'm in a 3 bar right now. I'm right down the road from where our base camp was. Man, that whoever is there now, man, they're like, "Yeah, this is nice. I'm gonna stay here." They got, like, all kinds of water stacked up and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, man."
uh,
'Cause I brought my pop-up tent and everything. I was gonna set it up. I was
yeah.
gonna set up the studio. And I'm like, "Oh,
Oh
dang,
man,
man."
timing.
So, so
Dang.
I'm right down the just right down from there, a couple camps down the road from there, and luckily enough, have 3 bars. So,
Nice.
that's a great thing. So, yeah, you were there during the throes of all. Then you came in with your katana, your little kind of practice amp katana, right?
Yeah, my
Which
little
is made
travel
by,
amp.
yeah, which is made by Boss. Because this
Right.
whole conversation has pretty much led to Roland and Boss, and why would I spend hundreds of dollars on something where you can just pick up a Behringer, and for the price of one of these, you can get a whole pedal board of Behringer pedals. Some of them pretty good. Some of them even preferable over the Roland product. So why wouldn't I buy that? So I was kind of going into why I wouldn't get those, and essentially it boils down to, I'll shortcut it. Um, you're buying sound. You're not buying when you're buying sound. you're buying also the reliability of that sound if you're a professional musician. So if you buy a $25 knockoff, you're going to get a $25 reliability on that
Yeah.
product, you know. And one of the best things I heard about the Behringer and the plastic ones that are really cheap and they sound good or great, even. But the best problem, yeah, the worst problem rather that I heard about those things, and not how cheap they are, but that it's plastic and it doesn't dissipate the heat, and therefore moisture builds up in there, and moisture is really bad for electronics. Because metal encasement dissipates heat. You know, okay, electronics produce heat. All electronics produce heat. And so when you produce heat without it dissipating, it creates moisture. So that was one of the huge reasons for not doing Behringer. However, I'd say one of the best reasons for doing Behringer is you're not a professional musician. You live in a house and you want to have all the sounds that have ever been made by mankind. I would have that pedal. I would buy that pedal in an instant. I go, yes, I want an all Behringer, all Amazon pedal for sure. But if it's something that I need to like last and I need to play outside and I need to step on it, I need for it to like it did today all fall. They're all connected and they all just fell. I'm like, yes, yes, I don't have to worry because I know these products they're meant to be stepped on and kicked around, you know. And right when you joined me, because I was also talking about why not a multi-effect unit over single effects, but we'll go back to that. Right when you came in, I was talking about, well, uh, if Behringer essentially knocked off the form factor and sound choices of Boss, then who do you think the real deal is? Boss would be, of course they are, right? So, you know, of course, there's other products, you know, and uh, I'm just sort of talking about why I go with with Roland and with Boss, and the form factor, you just can't beat the form factor. You're not out there with a screwdriver unscrewing stuff. You know, they got the battery compartments right there. The AC connectors on the top, not right next to the instruments. Oh God, I hate that. Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean Boss figured it out. They did it right, and they've been doing it right for a long time. So, I think it's worth making the investment. The simile was if you're a carpenter and you need to start doing your profession, are you going to like buy a cheap hammer and you know that it might break and you're going to be in the middle of the job? You're going to buy the hammer you've built many houses with. That's the hammer you've been using for years. I'm going to get that hammer, right? And so that's the thing. There's a whole bunch of new products even, right? That might
Yeah.
even be better. Might even be better. But listen, I've been using these for years, man. So and so have many other musicians. When you're trying, if one breaks or gets stolen or whatever, you're going to be able to find another one, unless it's a vintage one, which is what I'm having problems with right now. But so when
Yeah.
you came in,
I had all my pedals.
yeah, what happened though? You said you went and you had pedals and you have pedals, but you went to do a gig and you didn't
I
use them.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I didn't use a single one. You know, I have two different loopers. One is the Ditto 2.
right?
and then I have the circle looper, which is nice because it
Represents.
is several hundreds of drum beats that you can just
Oh
and just
yeah, yeah.
and
I
just
hate
play
those.
to.
I hate
Yeah, I
those.
don't like that either because how are you going to start the song? You know what
No,
I mean?
the electronic
I couldn't.
drum loop things will always sound horrible, man. You know.
Yeah, so I mean, that's good if you want
Oh, for practice, awesome. Yeah, yeah,
just like you want to find a couple of drum beats or something like that, maybe
sure.
rock beats that you want to try some stuff to,
Yeah,
but
totally.
yeah, taking it out on the busking note. And oh, and then I have my super fuzz
Right,
pedal,
right.
and I actually haven't used that one on the street. Just
Yeah, yeah. Now here now the good this is exactly where you came in and where we kind of are meeting in the conversation now. You're all up to date and we're pretty much on the same page. Um yes. 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 Here's the thing, and this is where Roland and Boss really show how badass they are. And I think you're going to agree with me. Badass. Badass. So you have a katana, and when you go out and busk and play, it's like, man, I'm not gonna plug a bunch of effects in and like, yeah, and
yeah,
then you're gonna be tweaking with the and like, in the meantime, everyone's come and gone. They're gone. Yeah.
yeah, they're gone
So
already.
you're not gonna do that. You're gonna plug in right at the right time, and you're gonna go rock out with your cock out. Yeah. And so, of course, that's what you're gonna do, right? And if you're smart, you don't get too crazy with the effects. You actually just use the amp as clean and as good sounding as you can get it to sound, and you
Yeah,
play. I taught you that when you're there because you came and you're playing, and I'm like, oh, hold on, you're a really good player. Why do you sound like shit? And I'm like, oh, it's because you're using
the
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 onboard
sound was good.
effects, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. Roland made an amazing amp, and they continue to make amazing amps that sound good. You can dial them in, and they truly sound good, like an instrument, right?
Yeah,
But only a little bit, and you can't expect a lot from a little. What I don't know how many. It's still pretty cheap, $300 maybe or $100. But how much variable, good sound are you going to get out of this? You're
yeah,
not. You're only going to get maybe a little bit of good, just here to here, and it sounds good, right?
yeah, yeah,
But this is where Roland is badass. This is where Roland is badass. They put all those effects on there like little lines of cocaine. Like, this is how cool you could sound if you had delay. This is how good you could sound if you had like, yo, you want to go deeper with that reverb? Imagine how that would be, right? So they got all the effects on there and they kind of get you into the effect. You wouldn't want to use that shit live because it's not very good sounding, honestly.
hmm
But if you know how to play the guitar and you plug it in and the amp is sounding good, you're going to sound great. And you're also going to be addicted to wanting to buy these freaking pedals because you know that you want to be a space cowboy and you're going to be like delay city, and that delay on that amp ain't good enough for that. Oh no, it isn't. You can pretend you're a space cowboy with that delay on the katana or on
Yeah,
my cube. You can pretend, but you're just pretending. You're not
yeah,
really a space cowboy till you get the delay unit that you got to step on and that you can tweak. You know,
yeah,
so that is so slick. I think of them, and I don't think nasty at all either. I think it's like a win-win, a Japanese win-win, where they go, listen, we're going to give you these. We're just going to give you a little taste of what these things are like, but really don't take them to the party. If you
yeah,
really want to go to the party, go ahead and buy a real delay or a real phaser or a real flanger or all of those, right?
yep.
So smart, so smart,
Hmm.
you know. And if anybody wants to know what effects they need to buy if they're buying effect pedals, well, buy one of those Roland amps. You can get one for $100, I think now, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's
And
a lot of
then
different models.
yeah, and then play with the effects and then decide you can then figure out what effects that you use the most and then go get that effect, and start building from there. Now, um also where I was left out is admitting that if you're handicapped like myself, where I can't play guitar very well. I'm a good guitar player, but I just can't play guitar very well due to carpal tunnel. So I have to use a looper, and in many ways I have to use sonic inspiration for both myself and my audience in order to to do to be a musician, to play for people. If you know how to play your guitar, you don't have to rely on those things. So, I think it's an important thing. It's an important lesson I'm learning. I think it's something that it's. I think this is all pretty valuable to someone, especially if they're trying to figure out where on the musician spectrum they are. Where
Yeah,
are they on that? Because if you're living in a house, that's a whole nother spectrum, right? Of being a musician and being able to have multiple guitars and stuff like that, right? And multiple instruments. Or if you're traveling all the time, like we are, how you really got to and if you're a professional musician, you're essentially going to be a traveling musician and you have the same so we are as nomads, we're in a classic situation that no musician
yeah,
is not familiar with. They're going, man, what am I going to take with me? What am I going to bring? How am I going to do this? So
yeah,
it's a challenge. Um, I'm with you. I think when it comes to busking, ah, it's just so hard. It's all good situational. That's another thing about this is modularity. Maybe I just take a looper and I'm laying down a rhythm to play over top of or no looper, just right into the cube like you do, right?
yeah.
Um
I've thought about putting a looper for some songs, and instead of singing it, just phrase it on the guitar.
yeah.
Um, like phrase the melody kind of deal. But I don't know,
But
man. I
here's the thing. Here's the thing about loopers that I want you to consider because this is something I think I said before you came on. You're not a drummer.
No,
I don't think people that if you're not drummers, I don't think you should use a looper live
yeah,
because there's
you,
always going to be that discrepancy in beat, right? And the best use for a looper is for rhythm. So if you're a good drummer, you can do an 8-bar rhythm, a very enticing and pleasing rhythm. What I'm finding today, I just did this thing today and I'm really stoked on it. is I'm just using the auxiliary input and a microphone. It goes through the looper, but still auxiliary input, right? And a
Hmm.
microphone. And I don't even take the drum out of its case. It's in its case. And I play the drum and I play a nice rhythm and I have it on the looper and it's just perfect. Just perfect. It's sort of like when guys play on the body of the guitar with an acoustic, right?
Yep.
Except way better. Way
Yep.
better because this just becomes boo dee the boo dee the boo
It
dee,
ends
and
up
then they hit
sounding
it
like there's only so many sounds you can take out of it for a while, you know, and then
right,
only so many good sounding permutated of those sounds
right.
that sound good enough
So for a
to
looper,
fill.
I think
I know because I used to do that as an acoustic musician when I was, but all the songs that I looped in when I was doing gigs at the rooftop bar in Missouri were like two chord songs, you know. So it was very easy, like ticket, ticket, tick. You know, it was very easy to get the timing tight for those. And then when
yeah,
it came for the change, you have to like, of course, I had to practice to like stop it and then do the change at the same time, right? Stop it, do the change, and then bring it back in on beat. It took some
yeah,
time. It took some time,
yeah,
but yeah, the two chord song. I mean, those ended up kind of being real easy, and then adding the percussion with the acoustic, boom,
yeah,
you know, you hit the bass, and
right,
then you give it a
right.
with your strum, right?
That's your snare.
But yeah, after a while, that's all it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Well, here's the thing too. This is something that I also said before you came in, so I'm glad it reiterates. You didn't hear it, and it reiterates what I was saying, which is, when it comes to playing loopers or otherwise, when it comes to playing, there are two things that for me are hugely important. One is the audience digging it, and two, am I digging it?
Yeah,
See, and so if you're like in your instance that you just said, you really had to focus on really a non-musical thing. It was more a technical thing that needed to be done in musical time, you know? And
yeah,
so you're almost having to take away from the groove in order to make it sound good for them. So it probably sounds good for them and they dig it, but honestly, do we dig it? I don't think so.
yeah.
If we
Like, do
did,
I
we
like
would do it.
doing it? I don't like
Right.
doing it.
Right.
I
Right.
like to just play the song. Like if I had, well, now of course, now when I play music live, I don't use the looper at all. And if I'm to
Yeah.
ever do a gig out, you know, at the bars or coffee shops or whatever around here, yeah, I'm probably not gonna do any looping songs. I think I'm just gonna be a straight raw freaking listen to me rock out on this acoustic
Oh,
or
absolutely. Or
electric
electric.
guitar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah, yeah.
I think your playing is solid enough that you can do that. I really,
Oh, thanks. I
I'm not
appreciate
blowing
it.
bubbles. I think, but if you can get through a song and sound good, then why add anything more to that?
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I mean, because you listen, like you go to an open mic, and then you listen to other people play, and that kind of assimilates a sort of music staging kind of deal. Where you see where you're at, you see where they're at, you see what they're sounding like, and you're like, did I play a song like that or something like that? Because sometimes like you could be a real good musician and you can go up there and you could fuck up a song and actually fuck it up and make it sound absolutely horrible with no recovery, you know, and just like, oh crap, now like forgetting lyrics. Oh gosh, forgetting lyrics. Goodness gracious, so now it's funny. It's like you're so get so tight at first, going up. You haven't played in front of people before, like certain people. people, new crowd, whatever it might be. And then now you go up. Now I go up and I don't give no rats asses about no fucks. You know, I'm playing music. I was literally playing Ziggy
You mean
Stardust,
you
a
you
song that
you mean you give none of these?
I give none of them. Yeah.
Dang.
Well, I mean, I guess I give them to a select few. Uh, oh yeah.
Well, but the
Wait.
the
So
truth of the truth of the
if
matter is you have to give some fucks because
you do have to give some
yeah.
fucks. So the example of my mistake that recovered that just ended up kind of sounding comedic mid song was I was playing Ziggy Stardust, and instead of playing A, I played a different chord, and then as I played that chord, I sang in the key of that chord. That's the wrong chord. I need to play A, and then I played A, and then I went right back into the song.
I could just see a couple walking by going, "Man, the Asians, they're so tone deaf."
Oh
Yeah, I told you, Martha. They don't hear things very properly.
yeah,
Uh,
I oddly ring in the most applause when I'm there.
no, great,
Uh,
great.
yeah, it's nice. It's not bad. It's not bad. I think I made a guy jealous because I don't know, he was looking at me funny.
Well, he's probably going, man. How come people with Down syndrome? Everybody's so they love people with Down syndrome.
Dude,
They just feel sorry for
I'm getting down with the syndrome. I'm getting down with the syndrome.
them. Oh man. Well, it's a shame because when you were here, I was in the throes of just trying to find out what instrument I was going to play. I was not prepared to play an instrument. I was trying to figure out which one, and so now I'm just getting into the groove of playing that instrument, deciding, okay, what can I play with this instrument and whatnot. So, it's if you were here, it would be really cool if you were here now,
Dude,
because
I
we would be
know.
jamming a lot
Seriously
more.
though, fuck. Yeah,
I don't think
yeah,
I jammed. I don't know that I jammed once with Kim. I mean, he had kind of played along with me a few times when I was playing, but when I was out there with Kim, and I think mostly because again, I was more in the trying to figure out what I'm doing mode, and he enjoyed it. He enjoyed listening to me trying to
yeah,
figure shit out, but um, yeah, I just haven't been in that groove yet. And now I'm finally approaching that groove of going, okay, okay, okay. Now I know. Now I can, because even the way I'm doing it now with the just using the looper as a rhythmic element means other musicians can play along with me
yeah,
much more fluidly.
yeah.
And then and they can change chords and they can change keys, and and just make sure everybody is counting 1 2 3 4, and that's fine. And
Hmm.
especially if it's a very intriguing one and a two and a three and a four and a one and a two and a three and a four, and you make it interesting, musically
Yeah.
interesting. You make those four things interesting, and then I don't think a looper is even considered when you do it that way. Because yeah, when I was doing it, working with it this morning, I was so pleasantly pleased how well everything sounded, just sonically that way. The Big Muff. We should probably end this with just like, because I think our next stream which should be any hour. No, 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 any day now. Our next stream
Any hour.
should be should be should well when you're my age, you don't know if it was an hour that went by or if it was a week. You're waking up, you're
Yeah.
going, huh? Huh? What? Where? um,
Yeah.
uh, fuzz, the fuzz.
The
Yeah, we'll talk about
fuzz.
it in great extent on our next stream, but I do want to at least talk about fuzz because you have the same fuzz that I have. I
Oh,
have the Waza fuzz, and you don't need to feel like you're missing out because the Waza fuzz, the only thing about the Waza fuzz, it gives you more modern fuzz. And you know what? Who who listens to modern fuzz, right? The people that dress like, real lame. That's fuzz fuzz is a vintage thing, right? You see what I'm saying? Fuzz is vintage. I find myself using the vintage setting all the time. Like I'll pump it into high gear and then back down to
I'll,
vintage.
I'll be in town tomorrow, and for the other stream, and I'll pick up my Super Fuzz pedal so that way
Yeah.
I'll have it on me for demo.
Oh, for a conversation. Yeah, yeah, maybe we'll both. And
Yeah, yeah.
what we're doing, we don't need an interface. I might try one, but we don't need an interface. Just the microphone is good enough. And off of our amps and playing. But the fuzz is an interesting thing because when you play fuzz, you have to play the fuzz. You don't play your instrument. You don't play guitar. You
Yeah,
play
yeah, I
fuzz.
noticed that. It's an
Yeah.
interesting like change in how you play,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden it's like, well, because now you're playing all fuzzy, things are
Yeah.
fuzzy, things are blending,
Yeah.
and I that's
Yeah.
kind of how I view fuzz is it kind of blends into each other a little bit, like maybe almost in a fretless sense, but not really.
Well, on its own, it's an instrument, right? On its own, it's an instrument on its own, so to speak.
Hmm.
Like it's my sitar, it's my, whatever. But when you gain stack it, use it in gain stack, wow, it's really interesting because what you do is you use your boost or your driver, right? That's your first pedal. For me, it's my EQ. I just use my EQ as my boost and boost it however I want. I think an EQ. I think I want two EQ. I want two EQ pedals. That's how badass EQ pedals are. Because an EQ pedal can be whatever sound you want. So
Hmm.
if you get 2, it's okay, anyway. You get you get your drive, whatever your drive is, that's your first pedal. Then your second pedal is distortion, and your third pedal is fuzz. Now check this out. All of the settings are pretty much noon-ish, right? All of them are noonish. Really interesting.
Hmm.
And then you use all of those pedals together to get combinations, really rich and accessible combinations. So the fuzz isn't a fuzz until you hit the other two pedals. Then you get a nice what you want of a fuzz, right?
Hmm.
But otherwise it's a good distortion. So what happens is your boost just boosts your clean signal and you get slight distortion.
Right.
Then your distortion boosts is a boost for your boost, but it's not really distortion yet, right? Like the distortion, the DS1 is not a good distortion on its own. If you wanted to buy a good distortion pedal that was just, you wouldn't want the DS1. But if you're put it in a chain of pedals for distortion, it's magic because
Mm.
what you want with your pedals and what you want with your amp, what you want with your guitar, and we'll leave with this is at least for me, this is my take. I know a lot of guys don't do things this way, but I notice the ones that I like the way they sound, they do it this way. Nothing is max unless you want that sound in particular, and you want to go to that sound. So essentially, like, you want your everything to be 12 o'clock, and
Hmm.
then you want to be able to access sounds through stacking them, changing the volume, and stacking them, and like maybe playing the just the distortion and the fuzz without the drive, or just the drive and and the fuzz, or just the drive and the distortion, right? Or just the
Hmm.
distortion. All of those combinations are then blown, and it's just amazing, because all of those are then, you have the volume knob for every single one of those tonal variations. Your tone and volume knob on your guitar and the effects then give you all this wide palette. So
Hmm.
that's how you to approach your pedals properly. I know this because the one of the best pedal players in the world, he was in my band, and he literally one of the best pedal play. Doug Hilsinger is just such an amazing craftsman with his pedals, and so I've chased after those sounds, and yeah, and the ability to do that stuff for years after he left. And man, it's just the volume now. What I think what we all do, I know I do. You get lazy. Everything's on 10. Let's play, right? And you get no tonal variation at all, and music requires tonal variation, or at
Yeah.
least the music I like requires tonal variation, jazz and all the music we both like, it's very tonal variant dependent.
Hmm.
Boy, there's a t-shirt, tonal variant dependent.
Tonal variant dependent. I like that.
Okay,
TBD.
you got to remember that. That's got to be the title for
TBD.
this stream. Total
TBD. TBD. Tonal variant dependent. Tonal
tonal
variant
variant dependent. Yeah,
dependent.
TVD. So yeah, so but remember that, man, or when you're playing around. Just go get your initial sound, your clean initial sound out from everything at 12, or as 12 as possible, and then the whole palette's available to you, as opposed to needing to change everything just to get a sound. Now you set everything up so you can get whatever sound you want while you're playing. It's so huge. It's so huge, man. And I think that we all have an concept of that, but this thing of only playing it at 5, a guitar volume at 5, and then bringing everything up so it sounds where it needs to be, maybe pushing some levels here and there, so everything's where it needs to be, level wise. And once you got everything where it needs to be level wise, man, then you've got a whole nother 50% on every knob. Yeah, or
Mhm.
100% one way or the other, because you're looking at
Right.
tonal
Yeah.
accessibility. You're getting
Hmm.
100% tonal accessibility by going 12 o'clock on your knobs and getting your initial sound that way.
We're starting at plus 50,
High
right?
noon. Yeah,
From
we're
0 to
really we're
100, we're
really getting
starting at
into this
plus
fifth.
50, and
Th-
we can either go to 0 or 100, but we're starting
yeah,
at plus 50.
this 50-50 thing is starting to repeat itself in our streams.
The odds been 50-50.
Wow!
I
Ah,
just
thank
don't
you.
even care. Just what I was ever to say.
Yeah, we our next stream, we definitely got to bust out our instruments, man. So, all right, hey, man. I'm
All
glad
right.
you could make the very first sound advice episode series. That's what we're gonna do. This is called Sound Advice with Z and Chad. Yeah, and if you're listening to this in the future, those of you out there in the future, if you haven't done so already, help us out. Subscribe, like, comment, but mostly subscribe. We're trying to get to like 1,000 subscribers so we can do the fancy things. Yeah, and of course, go over to Chad Venture's channel and subscribe to his channel. He's got a lot of stuff going on over there, and he isn't bowing down to this niching stuff. His channel is just all about him and what he does. It's like, yeah, niching, niching is you're already niching enough. You're niching enough in life. You don't need to do it on the YouTube as well. Yes, yes. So, but me, I'm niched. I need to be niched. You know. Yeah. So, thanks again. Thanks again, Chad, for helping me out here with this. And I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with this channel. And I'm looking forward to the next stream. And the one thing, see, I really needed to divert. Oops, so sorry. I really needed to divert us to this channel because there's one thing that neither of us are going to run short on at all is talking about music.
Right.
No, yeah, and it will be relevant. Now, in the other channels, well, the martial arts channel, that the Zeekers is all over the place, just like your channel, right? And
Right.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, me too.
But at the same time, it could be all over the place, and there might be a very limited audience. I think there's going to be a much bigger audience for this sort of conversation. So thanks again, and I'll be talking to you soon. Aloha.